My name is Benji Yates. I'm the Southeast Regional Governor, and I live in Alabama, less than 2 hours away from Dinan's headquarters over in Opelika, which is why I'm pretty excited about being on this webinar and presenting this to everybody tonight. I'm joined by our current president of M chapter, Esteban Valentin. And Esteban, say hello. Well, he's on mute.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate your time, and thanks for being with us tonight.
So we want to get started in just a second. What I want to do first, though, is kind of go through the format we're going to have for tonight. We have two very special guests from Dinan. We have Ian Boss and we have Nathan Fetty. Ian is Dinan's marketing services coordinator, and Nathan is their brand manager. Before we get started with them, I just wanted to take a minute, kind of give everybody the format. So we're going to talk with them and get a good background history on them and how they came to Dinan, what their current role is, and what they do in that role. After that, we want to move into Dinan's past, present, and future concerning their products and platforms and what they're working on and upcoming events they're going to have. And they prepared about a 4-minute video tour of the facility so we can all kind of see inside the facility and then outside, kind of see what they do day to day in-house. After that, we're going to have a Q&A session, and we have a couple of pre-submitted questions. Be sure, if you have questions throughout this webinar, that you please post those in the Q&A section down at the bottom. You probably should see that. Don't just post them in the general chat, because Esteban's going to be kind of collecting all those, and we're going to go through those at the end. So with that, let's get started. Ian and Nathan, welcome. Ian is got a very incredible background as a professional race car driver. He has not only raced in the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona, but also won it. Looked like he won the GT class. And just a little tidbit of information. You know, a lot of y'all heard of Randy Post as also kind of a famous driver, race car driver. I've seen him at the track, and he's been on Motor Trend TV. He was actually Ian's fellow race car driver on the same team, actually. So I thought that was pretty cool.
He was actually the co-driver in the 24 hours that we won together. So.
Oh, cool,
yep.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, well, cool. Well, so as I said, Ian is their marketing service coordinator. Go ahead, Ian, and tell us a little background about yourself and what led you to Dinan, and you know, what you do in your current role. And then after that, if Nathan would like to share the same, we'd like to hear from him as well.
Okay. Well, thanks everybody for having us. So my background and how I got to Dinan is through racing. So I grew up in Indianapolis, Indiana, raced most of my life from 13 till now, from karts onto Formula cars, and my family is real into the automotive industry, so racing was just part of my upbringing, and got into kind of an amateur racing, and then you know, semi-pro and professional racing through different Formula car ranks, Formula Ford, Formula 2000 stuff, and then made the transition into sedans, GT cars, saloon cars, whatever you want to call them. And you know, for pro racing, that's always a really good way to get into pro racing. Specifically, just it costs a lot of money. A lot of times there's the endurance racing, so you've got multiple drivers. It's easier to accomplish that racing as a team than it is as a one-off sort of scenario. Yeah, so 2006 is when I won the Daytona 24 hour, or sorry, 2005. And then in 2006, I started racing for Stasis, which is a tuning company. They were based out of California at the time, and they're actually a competitor to APR, who's our sister company here at Dinan. And that year, APR approached me to sponsor me and start doing some cross promotion and stuff like that. And the next year, we decided we would start a race program together, and that started a long relationship with APR, and then 10 years of different racing, different series with them. Basically, a lot of success, and it's also really fun. Ideal racing because APR had a stake in the car, so like developing products for a car that also ultimately went to the public. So that was a really, really unique scenario in racing, because a lot of the times people are buying a GT4 spec or GT3 spec from a manufacturer. There are locked regulations. We were racing in Continental Sports Car Challenge, which is a street tuner series, so the regulations do allow for us to add some of our spice to the mix. And that's really, it's surprisingly rare in racing, especially as most racing is a spec, or they try to make it a class racing. So it's very, very close. So they don't want just open regulations and things like that. But it was unique for me because, APR had a stake in it. So it allowed us a long career together. So, I mean, about 10 years racing professionally with them. And ultimately, we just got so big. We started racing. I think we had 5 different cars at one weekend, and it got so expensive that it was hard to continue with racing. So we stopped the racing and started focusing just more on the product development side of things. And essentially, then shortly after that is when Dinan came into the picture, and we can go into that kind of scenario later. But Dinan moved in to our facility, and I started taking on some of the roles that I had with APR with Dinan. The two companies definitely are very similar in their mantra and their development process and what it means to make performance products. So it was a perfect fit, and it gave me the opportunity to drive different cars, which I always love. That's probably the biggest perk of this job, is to be able to drive so many different cars and experience all of them, from the low end Golf with a 1.4 liter to high end M5 or X5M or something like that. That's so it gives me a really good kind of scope of different cars, and that's kind of where my other part of my job is since I do have that experience, they call on me to do a lot of the development, kind of proving ground stuff. So as the product gets ready for release, they'll hand the car over to me. We'll do a track day, just even driving on the street if it's a suspension product, something like that, to get my take on the product, and then also pushing it on track at 10/10ths and seeing it if the product will survive a track torture. So definitely very, very lucky to have been able to get in this position and do all the fun stuff, and I definitely enjoy it.
Well, that sounds good. So what do you do as a marketing service coordinator?
So initially, so as I first started here with APR and Dinan, I was doing primarily sales. I was still doing some of the test driving and stuff on the side, but it was really hard to kind of juggle those two things, just because sales does require it is more of a desk job. So then the marketing services coordinator, or my position in marketing opening up, allowed me to get involved with the content creation, event planning, and gave me some more freedom to get involved with the cars more. So, primarily it's a marketing position that also allows me kind of more time to get, up close and personal with a lot of the vehicles and give some feedback on the development process and all that. So
Yeah, well, thank you. Nathan, would you like to tell us what you do, how you got to Dinan as a brand manager?
Yeah, not nearly as interesting as the roots of Ian, but I started Dinan back in 2014. I just came in as a marketing person at the time under Steve and kind of grew from there. One of the few people left from the California days that kind of spans that I'll call it a generational gap there. But my background is nothing like Ian's. It's primarily just marketing and graphic design. Actually come from a printing background is where my primary emphasis was before Dinan. And truth be told, I mean, when I came in, I wasn't much of a car person at all. The whole point of going there was avoiding an hour-and-a-half commute in the Bay Area, whereas Dinan was in my backyard, so it was 5 minutes away, and that was magic bullet for me to take the dive, and I'm glad I did. I mean, it's definitely been an experience for sure, and I'd like to think I've learned a hell of a lot and can actually talk the talk now. I still wouldn't say I'm a car guy per se, but I do appreciate them and understand the passion behind them for sure. As far as my jobs go, it's varied over the years. Mainly, currently, it's kind of just a little bit of everything. I'm kind of the conduit in between the outside world and the engineering group. So what I see out in the world as being popular, I'll try and pitch that to the engineering group and give them my ideas of what would be successful. What's our profitability on this, and that type of thing. In addition to that, there's a lot of social media and forums and just in general being, I'll call it the voice of the company, so to speak. Beyond that, I mean, doing product photography, and for a long time there was video and other stuff that Ian and some of the other guys have taken over, which has been a godsend. But yeah, I mean, it's a little bit of everything really, but it's really just being the voice of the customer inside the building is really what it comes down to.
Okay. Well, cool.
I feel like Nathan is short selling himself a little bit, because I do think that having somebody who has the experience over the time of a company is really important, just because as you develop new products, it moves so fast, and being able to have somebody who's so involved with the launching of the product, the knowledge of the product, is really important to have, so you can go back and talk to somebody or say like, hey, or have him involved in a meeting and say like, oh yeah, we did that 15 years ago, like nobody really liked it or nobody bought it or something like that. It's like having that long spanning knowledge.
Sure. There's a lot of tribal knowledge with Dinan that is on, and a very few amount of us in the building at this point when it goes back too far.
Well, and in generations, cars, the next generation, it moves on so fast, and it's like in the generations of people sometimes stay with the generations of cars, so you gotta cater to each new generation of car, but also stay in contact with the last one.
Absolutely. Would you want to touch on Dinan's past a little bit, and then move into the present? I know everybody's, I'm sure, anxious to hear about what you're doing now, but if you want to throw in anything of Dinan's past up to now, feel free to do that, and then move into the present.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I feel like Nathan is the guy for the the past thing, but you know, I mean, there's so much with Dynan's past. I mean, everybody knows. I think that, you know, Dinan was the first company, or maybe possibly the first company to.
I can take the history if you like. I'm a little more comfortable with the history than you are, I'm sure. I mean, the history. I mean, I'm sure most of you know most of it, but I'll give you the bullet point list. But Steve Dinan originally started the company in 1979 in basically the back of an ARCO station, and was primarily at the time focused on, I guess, be a 318, so it would be E8, or not 3.8, 320, so an E8. But anyway, so he kind of was mainly in the turbo side and doing turbo kits for them, which grew from that eventually, because he sold postage size ads in the back of Car and Driver or whatever, selling his wares. That eventually grew and went beyond just a little ARCO station, and that's when Dinan Engineering was founded. It's went through a lot of different things, but primarily it was strictly suspension mods. That's Steve's big thing, and always has been. And I think we've taken that to heart quite a bit. I know a lot of most of the engineers that are here, at least, are very hardcore on the suspension side of things. Power is great and all, but suspension is where really the fun happens. And I think that's been proven to me time and time again. I remember when I first got hired at Dinan, one of the first things Steve used to do was take you out in one of the cars and just scare the ever-loving piss out of you, just taking it to the extremes. And he never knew what to experience until you've actually had that experience. You go, okay, now I know why this X amount of grip is so much more important. It makes a lot more sense now. It's like, yeah, you can add another 80 horsepower and it's great and all, but it's just a number. You can't control it, it doesn't matter. But anyway, going back to the history, went through a couple different iterations as far as shops in the Bay Area. But again, it was primarily a service-oriented shop, and with some hard parts in between. It wasn't until, I guess that would have been 85 was the first actual Dinan car that actually made it into a magazine. That was a 635, remember right? I could be wrong on that, but going off memory here. But again, it wasn't any tuning, it was just suspension and turbo, and wasn't any software per se. It wasn't until the present Dinan, I'll call it, came into play, probably 97. That's where all the major stuff that Dinan's known for really came into play. That's when the warranty was adopted. When we got into the dealerships at that time, we expanded it beyond a lot of the hardware categories that were third-party labeled, basically. Like we always worked with Bill Stein back in the day, as an example, and Coney, and we still do these days as well, but it was a lot of private label stuff. It wasn't until around that time is when Dinan really said, we're going to do it all in-house ourselves. It's all going to be engineered ourselves, do it top to bottom in-house. And from that day forward, it's basically been that way as much as we can. I mean, obviously equipment's kind of a limitation in some degree, but we've maintained that for the most part. And then obviously that's carried on for a while. I won't get into the racing side just because it's convoluted as all hell, but we did have the racing side of things in 2009 to 2013. That was Dinan's big foray into the racing world with the partnership with Ganassi Racing in the prototype circuit. Did very well and won 24-hour Daytona twice, had the championship 3 out of those 4 years, amongst other championships in that run as well. But since then, I kind of dropped out, just like Ian was saying, on the APR side. It just got expensive, and there's not really a whole lot of profitability to it, among other things. There's more factors than that, but I mean, that's, from a business side, that's a big aspect of it.
It's hard too, because I think I mean, a season of racing, the rules change every year,
Oh yeah.
and then as a company trying to develop products, I mean, it's hard enough putting a car, 10 products out in a year, let alone to like try to conform to different racing regulations quickly and and competitively. So it's a tough thing to do for a company like Dinan and to do racing. I mean, it's just a
Yeah.
tough
I
proposition.
mean, it was before my time at the company, but I mean, from everything I've always heard, it was basically, okay, you're cramming as much stuff you can with the company, Monday through Thursday. Then Thursday night, you're there all night, and Friday prepping cars and getting ready for the track, and you're there all weekend. And it sounded exhausting, to be frank. So I'm sure Ian can probably vouch for that.
Oh
On
yeah,
this.
not nonstop. I know that the most races I did with working with APR. We did 35 weekends of testing races in one year, and mix that with 40-hour work weeks
Sure.
plus your weekends. It's just exhausting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
It'll,
all the
it'll
racing stuff though is invaluable, as you said.
yeah,
It's like on the APR side and the Dynas side, a lot of the lessons learned at the track, I mean, correlate to all the products that we make. You make a mistake once and you find the answer and you stick to it because you know it works now. You've tested in the most extreme environment possible.
It's kind of a trickle down effect.
Yeah.
All the lessons learned on the track translate into the products on street cars and
Exactly.
makes them that much better. So, well, thank you for that history. I know that was a very condensed version.
Very condensed.
It was still very informative, so thank you for that, Nathan. Um, let's move into the present with Dinan. I want to make sure that we cover, your vast array of products, and if you can just give us an overview of your categories and the things you have, the product categories you got, your lineup, and kind of tie into that with your slogan, performance without sacrifice, because I know that that's really what sums up your whole, your whole business is being able to deliver on high performance without a whole lot of sacrifice. So,
yeah. So I think the one thing that Dynan has done really well is create an entire package for a car. um, and definitely having seen it, from the APR side, it when Dynan first came in, it was definitely unique to see how they approached a new product development. And I would say APR has adapted a lot of those things. And the one thing I always was jealous of before Dynan came through was just the amount of cool suspension stuff that Dynan did. APR just recently got into suspension stuff, and being a driver, I really appreciate a car that handles well. And to be brutally honest, Audis and Volkswagens with front wheel drive and all wheel drive, uh, platforms don't always handle as good. Whereas BMW typically from the factory come with better weight distribution, so that the starting package is a lot better. So there's I've definitely hit my head on the desk with certain Audis and such, where the car is just not going to handle right. It's just got too much front weight bias, and it's just not the recipe was just wrong to begin with. It might be a really fast car in a straight line, and it'll do all right, but from a driver standpoint, and just that joy that you get out of a car that turns in crisply and is easy to control on oversteer, gets lost in some of those platforms. But it was nice to see another tuner take on what we were doing. And with control arms and upgraded bushings and things like that, I think it's it's a unique thing it's hard to describe. You know, it's a seat of the pants feel, and it's it's a totally different product than just saying, hey, this will make 100 horsepower. You know, that's an easy sell. You know, whereas a suspension product where it's just a lower control arm or something like that, you know, it's just not as sexy. So, but certainly the experience is there. So, you know, I think that's one thing that's unique with Dinan and where we are continuing to go. And you know, the other thing that's amazing that I really think is impressive is when we do make these products, ride quality isn't sacrificed. You know, you don't have clinks and clunks going around, and you know, certain issues that are inherent of the product. And the same goes for exhaust. You know, the exhaust development process is definitely really refined through Dinan, and every product I've had the opportunity to drive is surprising on how little drone there is, you know, and also still providing a different experience that, you know, it's again, it's kind of a little hard to explain, but you know, you can definitely feel it and experience it. I think those, you know, that sort of, you know, way of thinking is still very much part of our development and where we are going. And you know, I think at the end of the day, the goal is just to make the best products. You know, it's easier said than done, just because the product development cycle can be so big at times. And you know, it's hard to go back and you just try to do the best you possibly can and create the most refined package at the end of the day. So
I was reading, I went out to your product page site, and I was reading about the tunes, and they were like stage 1, 2, and 3 of the tunes, and and part of the without sacrifice part to me is that you're not giving up reliability, and so it said that it would it helps with the reliability in the sense that the way they developed the tunes was, yeah, it might give you 100 more horsepower torque, but the way they deliver that power and torque, where it's like the higher in the RPM range you get, the more it kind of trims off or trails off, so that it's not just the same amount of thrust throughout the whole rev range, and therefore it increases reliability for that amount of torque. You know, probably not every tuner would do that or does that.
yeah, I think you know, one of the things we're really conscious of is the efficiency of the engine. You know, that's one of the things we've recently invested in is a emissions dyno, so that we can track the efficiency of the engine, stock and tuned, so we know that we're, you know, still able to, you know, have our cake and eat it too, sort of thing. And I think that's something that's probably not a lot of people are doing. You know, and again, emissions is just, it's one of those like kind of hot subjects in the automotive world. Nobody really kind of wants to touch it, but you know, certainly efficiency of the engines should be, you know, quantified, tuned, and stock. You know, so you know that you know, you're not giving up a bunch of efficiency just for the sake of power. You know, and that's where we're all going. You know, that's what the EPA is, you know, wants to happen. You know, for sure.
Well, a lot of the reliability comes in with your warranty, right? I mean, I was seeing where you have your own authorized dealers, but there's still BMW dealerships that install your products, and it doesn't void the factory warranty either, if I'm reading that correctly.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, it is a sorry, what's the word? It's a supplemental insurance or warranty along with it. So in the event of something going wrong, there is a safety net there. So it is, it's definitely not a factory warranty in the sense, but it is certainly a warranty that we're going to stand by, and that's the most important thing. That we're not going to let people leave them out hanging.
All right. Are there any categories that you want to touch on? I know y'all have a lot of them. You have brakes and all the suspension stuff and the handling and the tuning and all that kind of good stuff. Is there any information you want to give us about? I know it's a complete package.
Yeah.
But if you just kind of cover some of the general categories, I know we're going to get into the coil packs. I know that's
Yeah.
relatively new, and everybody's asking about that. So
Yeah, so I mean, I didn't really touch on like the flash tuning. I mean, the flash tuning is certainly, our one of our bread and butter products. It's typically one of the first things somebody's going to seek out to do, if they're looking to increase their performance. So, and then the flash tuning has gotten more involved or more refined over the years. So now we're offering a couple different options for calibrations. One being going to a dealer and having the ECU flashed through the OBD2 port, and then also handheld tuners that give the driver ability to revert back to stock and tune mode at their will. So those are two new exciting things, and something we're always actively developing. That's certainly probably the hottest topic in any product development is, how are we going to develop software tuning, but more importantly, how are we going to deliver it to people, because not everybody has a dealer in their area. So that's where the handheld comes into place. And we're always looking for other options there as well. And then, coil packs, like you mentioned, those are just a complement to our product range. It is definitely we look at it more of as a maintenance item rather than a performance item. They do provide more output, certainly, and we've had people that have claimed higher dyno numbers and things like that, but this is really just looking at it as a maintenance item, something that's going to be heavy duty, going to last longer than a stock coil pack. And those are items that we typically hadn't really looked at in the past. So it is a new kind of product category for us, and they're doing really well. I mean, I think people like also the ability to customize the colors. It's just if you're a car guy, you're always looking for that next thing next project to do on the weekend, and coil packs are one of those easy approachable projects that anybody can do. And then you open up the hood and you see that it's red or a different color, and you're like, oh, okay, I can see that I did something.
Exactly. So I know it'd be possible to go through all the platforms that y'all provide products for now, but I guess we could move into, what's going on in the future. Are you, and I know y'all, Dinan makes products for more than just BMW, but we just want to focus on BMW tonight, obviously. So are there any BMW platforms? I mean, do you do every platform BMW comes out with? Do you do only certain ones? If so, which ones do you choose and why?
I guess it comes down to, you see certain engines, obviously, that are shared amongst other platforms. Those are obviously, attractive, something where we can go and get one platform, tune it, and then it applies to 3 other models or something like that. And then sometimes it comes down to whether or not we can get the car. We're always looking to get a development car as soon as possible, just because a lot of times new cars, the biggest thing is the ECUs are new, and they've got the new latest encryption, and it's going to take a long time before somebody figures out how to get into them. So as far as specific cars, I mean, Nathan, do you want to maybe mention anything on upcoming cars specifically that you know of?
I mean, in general, the M cars are, I guess if I turn my video, the M cars are our bread and butter for sure. I mean, anytime there's an M car, we'll go out of our way to make sure we have a full product line for that. Beyond that, your 6-cylinder in general, 335, 340, that is usually the next tier, M240. And the V8s and the inline fours, volume wise, we try and do at least the core stuff on the main models. Core stuff being software, tune, intake, and base suspension. But that can range a little bit because some platforms, as an example, the M550, we would love to do everything on it. But like an intake, there was just no way to do one. Just physically was no room, so we didn't do it. But when you get into like the really tertiary models, specifically SUVs, we kind of avoid them. Just history has proven them not to be terribly popular with the tuning crowd, outside of like the X5M or X6M and X3M. We may start dabbling in some of the other kind of in-between performance models, like the example X3M or X3 M40i. But for the most part, it's really what we focus on is going to be the M cars and the 6-cylinder core performance cars. Although I will say, especially in the legacy Dinan, Dinan has typically been one of the few that have done a pretty wide array of parts for the bigger cars, the 5s, 6s, and 7s. I think to this day, even on the current 7 series, I think we're the only ones that actually offer an exhaust for it, which amazes me. Given volume isn't huge, but when you're the only one in the market, you still sell a fair amount. So, yeah, but that'd be where our core is.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm seeing there's a lot of questions popping up, and I want to make sure that we can get to them as many as we can tonight. So, but before we do that, unless Ian, you wanted to talk about anything real quick, I was going to go ahead and show your video.
That's fine with me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let me make sure I can pull this up. Go ahead.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. No.
All right. Let's see. All right. Y'all tell me if this shows on the screen. You see it?
It looks like it's loading. Here we go.
Is that it? See it?
It's, looks like it's having a issue loading.
Let me stop it and rewind it then.
Maybe an option would just be sharing the URL through the chat.
Esteban, can you see my screen, making sure I just did a share screen on it?
Yep, it's just slow loading, but it could be also the bandwidth on the webinar. So I'll take the link from the email that Ian sent us, and I'll drop it in the chat so everyone can go and take a look at it.
Do you want me to still try to run it, or?
We can try, give it another shot. Maybe it can load now.
Yeah, audio is not great.
Welcome to Dinan and APR. Today I'm going to give you a quick look around our 80,000 square foot facility here in Opelika, Alabama. Out of this location, there are 14 different departments that cover the development, production, marketing, sales, and technical support. Today I hope to give you a glimpse into what it takes to bring the best performance products to the BMW market.
Yeah, that's our actual emissions dyno there.
As soon as we get a new car, we start collecting data on it to determine the best possible upgrade paths. Sometimes it's as easy as opening the hood and identifying possible weak points with your naked eye. In all cases, we use instrumentation, 3D scanning, and baseline dynos to help us determine our first steps. All of these things help us quantify where and what needs our attention. Once a product is determined, engineering, sales, and marketing collaborate on the project requirements. Here we try and answer all the basic questions, like what's it made out of? How much power must it make? Competitive analysis? How will it integrate with other upgrades? Once the requirements are determined, the project is handed off to an engineer who will head up the entire project start to finish. Next is the prototype phase. This very important step is to determine proof of concept. Here, our team will fabricate and 3D print whatever it takes until the concept is proven. This small-scale, one-off production type is crucial in determining our next steps. The next step is called design for manufacturing. Here we figure out how we're going to produce this product on a much greater scale. This process can be very extensive because it requires lots of different suppliers and manufacturers all to meet our specific project requirements. Once the product has been designed, proven, double and triple checked, we move on to the production samples. Theoretically, this will be the final stage before ordering our production inventory. This stage gives us one final check to ensure the product is fit for sale. The final stage of this process requires a huge synchronized effort by many different parties inside and out of our facility. Purchasing and production will coordinate to acquire, build, box, and ship the inventory. While sales, marketing, and engineering will coordinate on the training and digital content needed for a successful launch to the public. Thank you for allowing me to show you what happens behind the scenes here at Dinan. Although it's just a quick glance into our world, I hope it gives a better understanding of who we are and what it means when we say performance without compromise.
All right. Well, I hope it turned out okay. Esteban said it looked okay.
Yeah, not too bad.
Was that you, Ian, at the end?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I figured as
Yeah,
much.
we got a new M5 video coming out soon. So last week, me and my coworker, we spent the entire week driving that thing around and getting some cool shots. Which that two-wheel drive mode is way too much fun.
Looks like it. Before we get into the QAs, I just want to make sure we have enough time for you to real quickly talk about the house party. And we'll mention it again, and we'll send that out in our follow-up email. But
yeah, okay. So house party is March 26th. It's Saturday. If anybody's been to any of these events before, it used to be called the barbecue. It's here at our facility, and basically we just invite. It's a free event. We've got dyno competition. There's going to be slot car racing. There's games. There's a car show. There's a scratch and dent silent auction. A bunch of food trucks are coming out. So we usually see around 300 people. We'd love to see more, obviously, if we could. But if everybody's around the area on March 26th, we'd love to have you. There is we do have some. I can actually drop the event registration in the chats if you'd like, if people are interested in checking that out.
yeah, I would like to plan on. I plan on coming myself and bringing a few local guys with me. I've not been there. One of my buddies has y'all have had his car before and used it to do some tuning and development actually. So I'm planning on coming up there. I hope we can have a few more people come in close enough to drive in. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty laid back car show. We were going to do building tours as well, so everybody gets to see, walk around and see exactly what we're doing, and then meet some of the people that are, you know, behind the products. It's a real laid back, fun thing. So.
Well, cool. All right. Well, thank you. I'll see if I can start reading these questions. I had two that were pre-submitted. Matthew asked Dyna's new coil packs. He wanted some product details. You know, mileage, service life would be helpful. And we touched on that, but I know you said it's a maintenance item.
Yeah, it's a maintenance item. You know, we've done a ton of testing on these. It's a super high quality product. You know, I would say that, you know, the maintenance intervals, I don't know if we've described that yet. Maybe Nathan, you could say that, but from what I've heard from customers that have been using these, they're just less likely to fail. I mean, some cars, coil packs are just, you know, like you keep them in your glove box. So it's not the case with these. And I think it's just something, it's also got a 1-year warranty on it. So if they do fail, we're going to cover it, which is, you know,
I think
for a coil pack maintenance item, you know.
I think the way we look at the coil packs is it's a maintenance item after they're a mileage item. So if you're at 50,000 miles, 70,000 miles, they're going to start degrading. And if you need to replace them, you might as well replace them with Dinan. It gives you more output. They're cheaper than any in the market, at least the last time when we released them, they were, unless someone dropped price or something. And they come in cool colors. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
So
it's true. At least 2 of the M colors. I saw the red and the blue. And so that's cool.
Too.
The next question we had was from Stephen. He asked, we mentioned that over the years, Dynan's allowed their inventory for old M5 cars to sell out and not be replenished. Is there any hope that some more popular items for E39s, and I'm assuming M5s, will ever be reintroduced? Back by popular demand, I guess is what he's asking.
Yeah, I think it depends on, you know, I guess that's the problem is the demand. If we're not selling them, it's hard to keep some of that stuff on the shelf when they're not moving, you know. That's the hard thing.
Well, don't give up hope, Stephen. You never know, but it sounds like there's so much development going on with the new stuff that.
I mean, we have released stuff that we can bring back for it. In the past 2 years, we've released, I don't know, half a dozen SKUs that gone before. They all had a history of decent sales to begin with, and we killed them off for one reason or another, and then we brought them back. But there's a lot of things that people request that don't have a history of sales, I'll put it that way. So it's kind of hard to justify bringing those back.
Gotcha. All right, well, we got about a handful more questions, at least probably 13 or 14, 15. So I'm gonna try to roll these through here quick. The next one was any items for the E30 M3? I guess that's probably gonna fall into the same answer that we had for the.
The only thing left for the E30 would be the chip, engine chip only.
Gotcha. All right. Any tips for aspiring ECU software tuners getting into the business? I saw on your website there was a position posted for a developer. It had very specific, and I'm a developer myself, and it was asking for, I think C++, and mentioned some other stuff I've never even heard of. So the short answer I'm sure you're going to say is yes, and it's on your website, right? And maybe they're asking what do they need to know to tune with, to develop with y'all?
A love of looking at spreadsheets and numbers. I mean, I'm probably the worst person to answer this because I just get confused when I go down to that department. So, but I mean, it's just a lot of techno babble if you're looking for like software stuff. Know your programming and just get all your engineering classes in. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'll follow up on that question with one of the calibrators next week. I mean, I think that's a good question, because I think I know we as a company, finding calibrators is a difficult thing. I mean, just because it is when you're calibrating, you know, closed source ECUs, where you're having to break into them and figure it out and reverse engineer them. That's a whole nother thing. It's just it's a skill level that really isn't taught so much. At least that's from what I can see from my view. But I gladly throw that in front of some of the calibrators and send it back. So if you want to note that one.
Okay. Yeah, I even saw assembler language on there, and I mean, assembler language was what I was taking in college 30 years ago. It's just amazing that they would still have a need for that. But it's very low level language, but it would be obviously very important with what y'all do. So yeah, check their I guess job openings, and it has a very detailed explanation exactly what they're looking for. But where you go get that experience, I don't know. All right, let's go to the next one. Somebody asks, what Dinan items would you guys recommend for the N55, namely the 135 E82?
I mean, the obvious answer is software. Tune first. That's going to give you the most meaningful visceral change. I mean, after that, or probably maybe even before, it depends on what you're after. If you're looking for sound, exhaust, obviously, but there's also all the suspension stuff, which, I mean, for a 1 Series, I would almost go with the suspension before the tune personally, just because it's a tossable vehicle to begin with. Have fun with it, take it to the extreme and get the suspension on there. You can always add power if you want more.
Okay, good answer. Where does Dinan see itself with the EV world?
Ian's probably better at answering this one because he just went to the EV Fest in California not that long ago. So.
Yes, that's a good question. So yeah, we are very much trying to see or actively seeing where we're going to fall in this EV world. We do have some EV vehicles in our development fleet that we are just poking around. To put it, I don't know. That's the best way to put it, I guess. So, it's an emerging market that we're very much keeping our eye on and plan on being involved in if there are options that arise. So we're still very much in the discovery mode of this, but our one of our parent companies just threw out a really massive EV event out in Sonoma, California, at Sonoma Raceway. It was all EVs, 2 days of track days. It was autocross, drag racing, drifting. It was very, very, very cool. I mean, being a car guy in the ICE world all my life, and then going to an EV event, I was shocked to see, the differences. But they still burn rubber just the same as a ICE car. So we're certainly, we got our eye on it. So that's where we're at.
The S58 power plant, what products does Dinan have for the new engine?
S58, M3, and X3M full product lineup is going out for it. Like I said earlier, M car, you'll get everything for it.
Okay.
X3M, you'll probably be a little bit more limited on suspension just because it's still an SUV. It's not really made for true performance handling, but you will get all the main product categories. As far as when stuff's done is probably the kosher answer. I mean, a lot of the extreme stuff's already released. We released the intake. I'll use quotes on that one, but I don't know, a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I think the only thing left on that one, as far as the main categories, is the tune. But that is problematic just because 21 model year DMEs have yet to be fully cracked. So flashes on 21 plus cars are a little Can't really give an ETA on there.
Okay. The E60 M5 and E63 M6, any plans on releasing any specific products for the S85 and those?
Hardware wise, the only thing really on the docket is you'll see coil packs at some point. There was enough demand and clamor for those at launch that we're going forward with those. Didn't use them or didn't do them at launch just because the S65 and S85 coils, each of them are specific to those exact models. So the application range was just so small, we didn't want to do them and then not sell. Kind of wanted to go with the 3 sets we did because they had a huge coverage range and they've been really successful. So we're kind of expanding out from there. So I think we're in the coil business to stay at this point, just out of the 2 weeks we've had them out in the market.
Okay. Speaking of coils, next question is, what Dinan suspension setup would you suggest for a 1M coupe?
Well, ours, obviously. I think we still have the coilover for that one available. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we still do. That's the Homer answer, but that's the answer I'm giving. So.
Okay. I guess there's one package for the 1M coupe, I guess.
I don't think we had just a spring set. I think it was only the coilover.
Okay.
I'm almost positive of that, but I don't go to the 1M stuff very much anymore. It's been a
Okay.
while.
Updates to the dealer list on the website?
I saw this when it came in. What's the easy way to answer this? We try, the sales staff and how it has been handled in the past has definitely changed. There used to be dedicated sales rep to each individual dealers, but our model has changed a little bit. We're more direct consumer focused. So we don't have the daily interaction like we used to with each individual dealer. So as far as when someone decides they don't want to be a dealer anymore, we usually don't hear about it till the customer tells us. The dealers don't really ever reach out and say, oh, we don't want to be a dealer, can you remove us? Because they still want the traffic. So, I mean, we try to update as best we can, but it's not quite the same as what it was in the past as far as the interaction on the dealer level.
Okay.
Daily interaction, yeah, is probably a better way of saying that.
And I didn't realize this was all part of the question. I think it's some dealers listed no longer carry Dinan. They're located in Charlotte, North Carolina, looking for a stage 1 tune for an M2C.
In Charlotte, you actually have a lot of good dealers. You have Dynamic Auto Tune's probably the longest running dealer for Dinan in the area. GMP's in Charlotte area. I'm sure there's someone else, but those are the 2 that come to my mind. But both are awesome dealers.
Okay, thank you. Legacy platforms, is there a time frame in which they would stop being supported?
No. I mean, the general rule of thumb for non-M cars is once it gets to 3 generations past it, you're probably going to start seeing stuff disappear. I mean, that's not always the case, but I mean, it really depends on how sales volumes is. If sales aren't warranting a reorder of certain parts, we're not going to stock it. We're just going to kill it off. But that seems to be the general rule. M cars, on the other hand, they kind of continue in perpetuity until sales just say there's no volume anymore. So.
Okay. We'll try to get through. I know we're already at 8 o'clock, 8:01. Are you guys okay to stay on and answer a couple more questions?
Yeah, I can stay for a little longer.
Okay. Let's see. Will the N series coil packs fit a mini R56, N14, and the N18 engines?
No.
Okay.
I'm almost positive they're different coils. I mean, you can visually look at them, but I believe they're not the pencil coil that you would think might be on there. I know we've never tested it on there, and the BMW part numbers don't line up as a matching what we've already tested. So.
Okay. Can the flash tuning be removed without any indication of ever being installed to pass California smog laws that will not allow any type of computer tuning? And then reinstall them after a smog test without a, let me rephrase that. And then can the flash tuning be removed without any indication of ever being installed to pass California smog laws that will not allow any type of computer tuning, and then be reinstalled after smog test without any additional fee?
It's a loaded question, and when you get into EPA stuff, it's always hairy. But I will say one thing. The fear over the California smog laws right now is overblown. The indication that got into the press was that they could check checksums and all this other stuff. Maybe in the future they will, but currently they are not doing that. So as far as smog goes, if it's flashed back to stock and there's no indication of it being modified physically, you'll be fine.
Okay.
I can't say with the future though, because who knows what car's going to do.
All right, can a flash tuning be removed? Wait a minute, that's the same one I just read. I was just getting that out of here. Let's see. Let's see if that's it. Was that it, Esteban? As I'll
I think that wraps it up.
say again.
Yeah, I think it wraps it up.
Okay, good. Esteban, I'm gonna turn this over to you and let you wrap up with in-chapter stuff. Ian and Nathan, thank you so much for joining us and chatting with us tonight. We know you're busy, you've got a lot going on, but it's been a lot of fun for me. I hope it's been a lot of fun for everybody else. And I plan on seeing you up there on the 26th of March for sure.
Look forward to it. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So before we leave, again, Ian, Nathan, thanks for your time. Appreciate it. Just a couple announcements, right? M chapter will be at the BMW Invasion in Orlando. This is February 19th. I will be there personally. So if you're in Florida and you're planning to be there, make sure you come by and see me at the M chapter tent. Plan to be there. I think it's 10 to 5. So make sure you come by. March 5th. M chapter is going to be at the Amelia Cars and Caffeine in Florida. This is an exclusive event that we have access to, and we're going to be celebrating the 50 years of the M brand. All the BMWs that are going to be there are going to be through M chapter. So if you want to display a car there, make sure you look for a MSR registration. If you're an M chapter member, you've been seeing these emails. We'll send a link to registration also with the wrap up of this webinar, and we'll later on also send a recording of it so you have it handy. Last but not least, April 7th through the 10th, this is the MX1 Enthusiast Weekend in South Carolina. Anyone that was there last year knows that this is a big event. It's an amazing event. It's loaded with a bunch of fun stuff to do. We will be planning caravans like we did last year, coming from north and south. We will meet up in South Carolina, and we're going to be, signing up for an action-packed weekend there, including M chapter track days at the Performance Center in South Carolina. There's going to be a Cars and Coffee also on Saturday. There's going to be a barbecue. We're going to have a dinner for the M chapter. We're also going to have a race watch. So make sure you're paying attention out there. It's going to be, registration should be opening in a couple weeks, I believe. So make sure you make plans to join us because it's a really good event. We had a blast last year. I'm pretty sure we're going to have a lot of fun this year also. So like I said, thanks everyone for joining us. We appreciate it. Ian, Nathan, thanks for taking the time to be with us today. Super glad that we had a lot of people on also. Benji, thanks for moderating. Appreciate it. Hopefully we get to do another one later in the year.
Right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone.
Appreciate
Have a good
it.
weekend.
Y'all too. Bye.